Good morning and welcome to episode 17 of Podcast by Angel. And I have been waiting a couple of weeks, been going through a lot of things, dealing with life like all of us have. And I have been going to a lot of funerals. I have been to so many funerals in the last month that it really is just mind-blowing how fast time is going. I currently went to my nephew's funeral, and it was heartbreaking to see all the family that I haven't seen in so many years, and I have to see them under these circumstances. I mean, like people that I haven't seen in years, man. And we all get older, and time doesn't wait for anybody. And I seen like so much love in that room for my nephew, and it was it just didn't seem real. It didn't seem like it was really happening. It seemed like a movie. Like I was just sitting on the outskirts of my couch with my feet up, and I was just watching a movie play. And it was a tough thing to deal with, to watch. You know, my cousin that's like my little sister looking at her son. You know, every time she walked by and she looked in that casket. And you know, my empathy is that I put myself in her shoes, you know, and the father, I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine that. And for those people that don't know, that stumble across an episode, this is an episode. This is not an episode, but this is a podcast about my life and about what I go through and what I feel like we go through as men with the background that I got. And this is just life on life's terms. And lately it's just been it's been a lot of things going on, celebrating life, celebrating death, celebrating just another day above ground, because tomorrow I don't know what it holds. And today I want to talk about love and what that means for me. I want to talk about the loveless life that I had growing up. I want to talk about past, present, and future. I want to talk about, you know, my heartbreak. I think that you know, as a kid, you really don't know, or at least I really didn't know that your parents, and we came from like broken homes. We didn't know that there was like loveless marriages and abuse and drug abuse and all these things going on in our homes. We didn't know that because of what we were going through as children, that things in our lives were going to manifest. We didn't know that stuff. We didn't know that because of the lack of love, the lack of empathy, the lack of being self-aware, and all these things in our lives, that our lives would turn out the way that they turned out, or my life would turn out the way that my life turned out. and I really didn't know what love truly meant. And love can mean a lot of things in a lot of different ways. There's the love of a parent, from a parent to a parent, with cousins, with brothers, with siblings, with siblings, brothers and sisters, and there's love in friendships, and there's love, just just having love for somebody because they don't love themselves, and you understand because you see them, and you understand what they're going through, and you just have like this unconditional, or you just have this love for them. There's so many different forms of love, and I have a big heart, man, and I always wanted to love on people for as long as I could remember. And the thing is that nobody had to teach me how to love. I understood what that meant. But and then there's another type of love, and it's the responsibility of love. You're responsible to love your children, your partner, your significant other, and upholding that love. And there's a lot of things that I think about, and I think back to when I was a kid, and there was nothing but that fun love. Like when it's like a new love. Uh, it was just so much fun when we were kids, and I think that as I matured, it's like everything got so serious, and then I just forgot about that fun love. I forgot about just having fun with the people you love. I forgot about making jokes and pulling pranks and doing all that type of stuff that um I currently try to do now with my kids, and I like messing with them, and I always like uh saying certain things and playing into certain things just to make get a good laugh, and to just show love in a laughing manner. And um everything is so serious nowadays that uh according to the world, you can't say certain things, or mess or play with people in certain ways, because it's like, are you gonna offend somebody, or um it's just not right. I just felt this need to like talk about love, and I learned to love, like now today I learned to love. um the only way I really started to learn to love, like in the last couple of years, is that I started learning to love myself. I started learning through my breakup, and through being alone, and like going through that a couple of times of like not being with my child's mother. I started to feel like, oh, it was a curse, and nobody's gonna ever really love me. And that's when I began to find out the truth, that nobody can ever love me. Nobody could ever love me if I don't love myself. And the truth was that the way that I love other people and the way that I love myself, it was a different type of love. Like I cared so much for other people, and I poured so much into other people that I totally disregarded myself. I would do things for people that I would never do for myself, or I would put somebody else's needs before my own. And, it takes me back to like when I was a child, like when I would do anything for acceptance. And acceptance is different from love. But I would go all out just for somebody to want me or to love me back. And, like throughout the years, I've been like working on that and learning how to have like healthy boundaries and say, well, what is it that I want so much affection from this person, or I just want them to love me and I want them to care for me. Because the truth is, for me, I never got really like that love that I was seeking from a lot of friends, and like people that are healthy in the way they love themselves. I would feel it. I would feel it from like my friends. I would feel it from like people in the streets that I've been through with things like people that became like my brothers and my sisters and like I felt like that love that I knew that they cared about me and they asked me, "Hey Angel, how you doing?" And there's just like such a simplicity in love. Just the kind gestures and people just checking on you, that it just brings like a warmth to your soul. And there's such a lack of it in the world. And it feels cold, almost like I go out into the world and the world is not what it used to be because it changes. Everything changes. And I could go and I could start getting into these things of why there isn't love or why there isn't this and that in the world. And the truth is, like, I could only talk about why there isn't love in my life. And it was because I didn't have, like, I got bits and pieces of it, but I really didn't have like that deep, intimate love because I didn't have that love for myself. I didn't have that relationship with God. I didn't have um a relationship with God where I could come and I could say the worst things and I could say everything that's in my heart and just let it all out because I was afraid of how I was going to be viewed. And I felt like God wouldn't love me because of all my deep, dark issues, in my heart and in my spirit. And as I began to mature and I began to understand, um, it God never judged me, you know, and with learning that God was never gonna judge me, I started learning to not judge myself, and then I began to notice, realize that it doesn't matter how people judge me or how people view me or what people say about me. The truth is that nothing matters. The only thing that matters is how I truly feel about myself. How deep do I love myself? And how do I love myself? In what ways? How do I prove that love to myself daily? How do I choose to love myself in any situation when people ask for help, when people are looking for this, people are looking for that? How do I choose to love Angel in those moments? Do I put somebody else's happiness and love before my own? And these are the things that I want to talk about. That like when I'm in a relationship, I just want to love everybody else. I want to help everybody else. I want to do everything for everybody else. And I forget to do things for myself. I forget to think about myself. I forget to think about what I want. And then I forget to think about like just what's right. You know, I could allow people to do anything in my life and ask me for anything, and it's okay. And then I feel awkward when I'm asked, like wanting to ask somebody, or I'm just not feeling the same energy back. And I question that. Like, is it just me? Is it me? Is it is it that I just don't love myself enough? That I'm questioning everybody else's love, and I'm questioning the way that people feel towards me. So I tell you, I do certain things now. Like there are things that I do that I understand exactly why I'm doing it. People ask me for things, and I say, well, I like I don't know if I could do that, or I'll think about it and I'll just leave them like that, just to see if people respond in different ways, because people will get upset and people will say things. And I don't jump to everybody's needs anymore. And I do that not not to like get people upset. It's just to understand that I don't gotta do everything for everybody all the time. And I don't gotta be trying to like save people all the time. The person that I gotta save is myself. The person that I gotta feel comfortable with when I look in the mirror is Angel. And the only person that understands me more than anybody else is me. It's myself. And that has been a hit or miss, because my actions show if I truly love. I could say whatever I want out of my mouth. I could say, "Oh, I love myself," and I'll do anything for myself. And yeah, like I look at these clothes I buy, or look at these sneakers I got, or I always get a haircut, and I always shave, and I always take a bath. And yeah, that's to a certain degree looking nice, and getting a haircut and stuff it's a nice thing. But like, what am I doing to prove that I love myself? How am I doing that? And I prove it by creating healthy boundaries, not argumentative, not hateful things. I prove it by loving myself day to day. There's a lot of things that I enjoy doing. I love working out because of the way that it makes me feel. I love talking to people and being there for them, and listening, and I mean like really listening and hearing people out. And I like doing things. I like action. I like doing things for people. And like lately I just want to do things, and I don't want to ask. I just do it, and it makes me feel good. And I'm not doing it anymore because I'm not doing it anymore because I'm looking for the recognition, or I'm looking for the thank you. It's it's like just doing it because it makes me feel good. Yeah, and if they say thank you, then fine, and if they don't, then that's fine too. And that is such a hard place to find yourself when you're looking for acceptance, and you're looking for love, in all the wrong places. And I'm learning to love myself when people don't choose me anymore. When you once had a friendship and that friendship falls apart, and that friend don't look for you anymore, and things change, and I'm learning to be okay with that. I'm okay with loving people from a distance, because a lot of times that's what I have to do, because it disturbs my peace. It does. It takes away the things that I've worked so hard for, like just the love and the peace that I have found within myself, that I've worked to pull out, to live my life by. I tend to give that up when I'm just seeking somebody else's love over my own. And it just feels forced. And, that definitely doesn't feel good. In a lot of instances, it's, for me, the biggest thing is when a significant other doesn't show me that love anymore. And like specifically in my situation, it's with my kid's mother, right? And like I I want their love, or I want their acceptance, and I want things to be perfect, and I want all these things. And the truth is that nothing's perfect, and nothing ever will be perfect. But in my mind, I got this fantasy going on, and in my mind, I think, oh well, I just, as long as they love me and as long as they care for me and I help them out and I do all these things, that's transactional. It's not love. It's not love. It's I'm gonna love them as long as I get this back from them. And that's not love. That's, depending on what this person does, I'm gonna love them or I'm not gonna love them. And I had to start learning to call myself out on that shit. And I had to start learning that the things that I was doing is not love. When I treat people certain ways, or I talk to people in certain ways, and I put people down, or I say disrespectful things, that's not love. None of that is love. And then I had to start learning. I gotta watch what I say. I gotta watch how I treat people. I gotta watch the way I am behind people's backs. And even if I'm joking, I gotta be careful with the way that I speak. And these are all ways that I'm learning to love. Loving someone is accepting them where they're at and the way that they are. Not trying to change them to be who I believe they should be, or just because I see somebody and I believe that they could be better in their lives, and then I impose that shit on them. Yeah, that shit ain't love either. And then I think about, why do I love this person? Or how do I love this person? And is it healthy? Those are a lot of things too. And I'm learning, people come in your life and they're here for seasons and different reasons. And it's understanding all of that and putting everything in its proper place. for me that has really helped me to grow in my pursuit of self-love, in my pursuit of loving, other people, um, in pursuit of loving my family, in pursuit of loving my children, you know. I can't give my child everything that they want anytime that they want it. It can't be that way. Like I do things with my youngest son and he wants this, he wants that, and I'd give him an ultimatum. You can't have this if you want that. So if you want this, then you don't want that. So which one is it that you want? And then it forces him to make a decision. With my daughter, I gotta fight her to even bring a loaf of bread when she's cooking dinner. And there's so much love that I have in my life. Like, I got my relationship with my oldest son, and we just go to hang out and eat together, and we always talking about life. And that unconditional love, man, is just something special. That is like a fresh pot of coffee. Things are brewing, love is brewing, and it's there. When I have my daughter, when I'm there and I'm there with my grandson, like I'm holding him and I feel his warmth, he feels mine, and he feels protected. Like he's no longer just crying every time I get there. He's familiar with me. It's just that protective love. He could feel that from me. We don't gotta talk about it. And my daughter with just that natural, like motherly instinct. It is the most beautiful thing to watch unfold. She cooks and she serves me a plate and she brings it to me, and I tell her how good the food is, how delicious it is, and why I love it, and the taste and the difference and all these things that she does, because she's feeding me because she loves me. And it's just so beautiful, the love that I have in my life. And I wouldn't be doing myself any justice if I just didn't love myself, because I wouldn't be able to reciprocate anything if I didn't love myself. I mean, like, truly. And you know how I learned to love myself? I was broken. I was sitting in the hotel room, broken up with my kid's mother, and I was all alone, and there was so much darkness in my life. And all these things were taking place, and a few people were able to answer the phone. A few people weren't. And I was afraid. I was afraid of hurting myself or doing something to hurt somebody else. And that's the truth, that I had to decide if I love myself enough not to do anything stupid, because my mind could take me to places and I could start to believe that I don't love myself, and I could believe that nobody's there for me, and I could believe that nobody cares. And I think that those were the biggest lies that I ever told myself. Because as I go and I speak to friends and I speak to people that I love, and I speak to family, like, when I love myself, I learn to be loving. And when I show up in a loving way, like, people are really different when you're soft. People are really different when you love on them and you treat them a certain way. People really love back when you make it a safe space to do so. And that has been the biggest difference in my life. When I talk to people with care and concern, and I talk about myself, and I talk about my struggles, and I talk about the things that I've been through, and I talk about the things that that I'm missing in my life, or like where I fail and where I fall short. You know, I've been working on myself a lot, man, and I gotta work on myself in real time. And when you think nobody loves you, man, it's because you're not loving yourself. When you think somebody's not caring about you or you don't feel that energy, it's because we're not giving it back to ourselves. At least um in my situation, in my life, that has been the pinnacle point. It has been the point where I've been lying to myself because I believe I'm not good enough, or I don't believe I'm not worthy of like love from somebody else. And the truth is, when that happens, I'm not looking for God enough. I'm not praying enough. I'm not reading scripture enough. I'm not talking with my brothers that are gonna tell me like, yo, hey, the fuck you talking about? People love you, man. I love you. Like, and they don't even gotta say it. It's an expression in the way that they behave with me. We don't gotta sit there, oh, I love you, or and saying all these things. I don't gotta sit there and do none of that shit with my brothers. It's expressed in affection. It's expressed in action. And that's how it's expressed with other men in my life that are like my soul brothers. I could call them, we talk, and we break it up, we chop it up about everything and anything. And that's love, you know? And a lot of people coming across this podcast, and, it's like saying goodbye, angels, saying goodbye to what? I say goodbye every day. I say goodbye to toxic behavior. I say goodbye to my own toxic shit. I say goodbye to other people's toxic shit. Because if I'm not accepting my own toxic shit, if I'm holding myself accountable every day, I'm looking at the way that I behaved yesterday and how I'm gonna behave today, and I'm not gonna do that shit I did yesterday today. What I'm saying goodbye to is the bullshit that I'm accepting in my life that I'm not accepting anymore. I might have accepted that shit yesterday. It's sort of like it slipped up in there. I'm not accepting that shit today. I'm saying goodbye to all that shit. I'm saying goodbye to looking back and not paying attention to what I have now and not looking forward and saying, I want today to be better. So then make it that. Make today better. Look in the mirror. Tell yourself you love yourself. Tell yourself, I love myself because of these things. Or I'm realizing I don't love myself because of these things. Like, what am I doing to prove that I love me? Why am I trying so hard to love a woman? Why am I trying so hard to like love people in my life that don't love me back? Why am I doing that shit? And you know why I'm doing it? I've been doing that shit because I don't love myself, because I don't have a relationship with God. But now I do. Now I do have my relationship with God. Now I do love myself because I go to therapy, because I make meetings, because I work out, because I love helping people. So I do service calls on the side. I love myself because I treat myself good. And I love myself because I think about Angel before I'm thinking about like a million people. I had to stop doing that shit. I had to say goodbye to all that shit. And how do I do it? People like, oh, well, how do you do it? You know how you do it? First, you recognize that it's wrong. You recognize that loving somebody else above yourself is wrong. First, you love God. Then you love yourself. Then you love the people in your life, whether it be your children, whether it be your wife, your significant other. But it has to come in that order. It cannot be that I'm doing what I want to do and there are no boundaries and there's no rules and there's nothing that I'm following. There's no order to anything. You know what? When you love God first, God says when you come to me, you come naked and you come in order. There's things that God requires of us. And when we understand that order of things, maybe not in a specific way, but we understand that there is some order to everything that's happening in life, then we learn that we have a responsibility to show up a certain way. Not perfect, perfectly broken. But you know what? Evict that shit from your life and understand why you want to be accepted by people. Because I really don't give a fuck who accepts me and who doesn't. And what people have to say. Because people talked about Jesus Christ. People talked about a man that came to this earth. God sent him down to have a human experience. And this man was perfect in everything that he did. And he was still shamed and crucified and killed, murdered, just for showing people love and for trying to show people the right way. What you think people gonna do to you? Especially when people realize that you have weaknesses like that and that they could play off of it. And you know what? I don't even blame those people. I'm not even mad when people do that because they do the things that they learn. They learn that behavior because it was done to them by their parents or it was done to them by a woman they loved or family members or anything. You know, like, I'm not mad at anybody no more. I'm just holding myself accountable because I have a responsibility to pick my shit up and walk away and go the other way. And that's my responsibility. That's what this podcast been about. Like God's been putting things in my heart, like saying goodbye. Like what does that mean? You know what? I could try to imitate what people are saying. Oh, look, he only got 20 views or 30. You know what? I don't care. Because if one person saw it and one person felt like they could identify with me and they say, damn, I'm not the only one, then that's all I care about. If I just reach one other person and they understand what they're saying goodbye to, and they understand that saying goodbye is a daily thing, it's a constant in my life of what I'm saying goodbye to. Because I'm not going to keep doing the same shit expecting different results. That's insanity, right? That's the definition. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. You know, I got my circle, I got my children, I got my family, but before all of that, I have God. You know, and I'm every day I read scripture. And every day I'm reading something that's written that relates to scripture in the Bible. And something that I could carry with me every day. I do that every day. Do I know the Bible back and forth? No. Am I perfect? No. Do I make mistakes? Yes. Do I make bad decisions? Yes. Am I perfect? Hell no. Not in any stretch of the imagination. And I don't pretend to be like I'm perfect. And I don't pretend to be this person that, oh, I'm walking on air. Hell no. I'm clean, working on 14 years, one day at a time. And you know what? I still mess up and I still make bad decisions. And I'm okay with that. Because I pick myself up and I dust myself off. And tomorrow's a different day, man. I'm not going to crucify myself because I'm going to keep feeding myself and poisoning myself because all this shit is spewing out my mouth about me, and my body's and my spirit is absorbing it, and it's death by self-infliction. What you say was coming out your mouth is what's killing me. If I'm talking negative about myself, if I'm saying shit about myself that isn't loving, it's negative. And unfortunately, I'm guilty of doing that shit. And you know what? I gotta get better. I gotta learn. That when somebody proves that they don't care about me, I don't gotta fight them. I don't gotta have conversation. I don't gotta talk to them about anything. I just gotta go. When a significant other or your wife, or whatever it is that you like, when they don't love you back, you have your conversations. Try to go to therapy. If that person isn't responding, they just can't love you back because they don't have a relationship either with God or with themselves, or they just truly don't love you. And at that point, we got to make our decisions. And then there's the things that we do that aren't loving, that causes people not to love us anymore. And we got to be okay with that too, because we're human. And we make bad decisions every day. And we got to live with those decisions. But it doesn't mean that we're bad people. And it doesn't mean that we don't deserve love. It just means that love don't live there anymore. And unfortunately, we got to move on. And you got to go through a process of healing. And you got to mourn people that are still here, that are still alive. You know? And that's okay. As long as you continue to have your relationship with God and you continue to love yourself and have that relationship with yourself and put yourself first. And then everything that you pouring into yourself, whatever flows out, that is exactly the meaning of my cup runneth over. I don't share anything else with anybody until I'm overflowing with love. And whatever flows out of me, that's what I'll share with you. But I'm not going to take what's inside that cup. What's inside of me, I can't keep pouring that out and not getting nothing in return. And then wondering why I feel so depleted. Yeah, I feel depleted because I'm not pouring in to Angel. I'm not pouring into myself. And that's why I feel so empty sometimes. Because I forget about Angel. Because I want to put Angel on the back burner. And you know what? If yesterday I felt depleted, today I'm going to take care of me. And I'm going to have a day to myself. And even though I have those responsibilities and I have these things to do, I'm going to say, thank you, God. Thank you for all of these responsibilities. Because when I was getting high and I was in the streets fighting, doing demonic shit, putting a hurting on motherfuckers, getting a hurting put on me, like doing all these crazy things, there was no responsibility. There was nothing that I had to do. I didn't have to be somewhere at a certain time. I roamed the streets and I did whatever the hell I wanted. And now I got these responsibilities because I've been living a good life and because I've been doing the right things. And now all these things are given to me. And I want to bitch, moan, and complain that I got to be there at 3 o'clock. I got to be there at 2 o'clock. Man, shut the fuck up. That's what I tell myself. Get the fuck up and move your ass, man. And appreciate that shit. Appreciate that God woke you up this morning. Appreciate that you have some kids that you showing up for, that they're waiting for you to come in that door. That they're hoping, they can't wait till you enter at 3:30. When I tell my kids I'm going to be there, they're waiting for me there. They're not just sprawled on the couch like, oh, hey, what up? No. They meeting me at the door. They're on the phone. They're attentive. How special is that, man? Your kids looking at you, you see that love and appreciation. That's why I move my ass when I don't want to move it. That's why I do what I got to do, because I be on some bullshit. A lot of times I'm looking at everybody else, and if I spot it, I got it. If I see bullshit in that motherfucker, it's because it's bullshit inside of me. And I got to check myself. Because the only one that matters is me. Because if I'm not meeting the requirements, if I'm not meeting God and showing and rinsing my heart to God and telling him all that nasty shit that's inside of me, and I'm not being real, then there's no help for me. If I'm not loving myself, if I'm not taking care of myself, if I'm not brushing my teeth, if I'm not washing my ass, guess what? Nobody want to be next to me. If I stink, my clothes are dirty, nobody want to be next to me. And you know who takes care of all that? I do. You think it's fun washing clothes all the time every week? And cleaning the house, sweeping, mopping, having a clean space for my son to come play. It's a pain in the ass. But I'm learning to do that with a smile. I'm learning to love myself. I'm learning to say thank you in all of it. And the things that I think of as a nuisance, I say thank you, God. Thank you for all of this that I have. Thank you that I have my own couch, man. I didn't have that shit before. Thank you for a drawer full of socks and a drawer. Well, I got to do some laundry, but I got a drawer full of underwears and clothes. And I don't have one closet. I have 3 closets. And, it's a blessing. It's a blessing that I love myself enough to take care of me. It's a blessing that I pray to God and I submit every day. And I say thank you for my eyes opening this morning. Thank you for my brothers that I contact on the regular. I don't know where I'll be without you guys. For real, I love you. And thank you to the brothers that get back to me whenever the hell they can. Because life is busy, man. And things are happening. And thank you to my children for being a pain in the ass and for always keeping me on my toes. Thank you to my kids' mothers, both of them, that afforded me the opportunity to be a father. I love them too. I don't want to fight. I don't want no problems. And the only way that I prove that is by not fighting and by not being a problem. So I learned to stop being an asshole and learn to begin and end with love. Say, hey, man, how you doing? How you been? You been struggling? You need anything? Is there anything I could do for you? And I do the best I can. And that's what love is for me today. Love starts with God. I pour into myself. And then I share my love with the people I love, with the selective few. And it's a beautiful thing. And If you're out there listening and you struggling, man, you turn to God or a higher power or just, just somebody, something bigger than yourself, man. And you turn to that and whatever you believe it to be, if God offends you or whatever, it's just something bigger than yourself, you know. And learn that if you care about you, if you just care about yourself and you do things for you, you're going to feel so much better. Stop waiting for a woman to love you. Stop waiting for your kids to accept you and forgive you. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. Love yourself. Be happy. Choose happiness. Choose love. Choose forgiveness. Choose caring. Choose all of that. All the positivity. Say good things about yourself. Pour all of that into yourself. You know? And I needed to wait a few weeks because what I was going through, I didn't want it to be about that. I wanted it to be about what God put in my heart to talk about and what was necessary to speak about in my life. And I just want to thank you for listening. And this is another episode of Saying Goodbye, a podcast by Angel. And I hope you learn to love yourself and be more loving to yourself in this process called life. And you're going to be okay. You're going to make it through. Just keep pushing forward. I love you.